Well, hello and welcome to the Modern Yin podcast. I'm your host, Kimberley Roberts of SolefulYin, and I am so glad you're here. I want to take a moment to help you understand what this space is all about, especially if you're new here, and how this podcast can support you. This podcast is really geared for busy women, especially over the age of 40, who feel like they're constantly on the go, taking care of everything and everyone, but you know what? Not taking care of themselves. And over time, that can start to look like feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, tense, tired, but wired, or just disconnected. What I share here is a different approach. Instead of pushing harder or doing more, we focus on slowing down, supporting your nervous system, and creating a sense of safety in your body. Because here's the thing, when your body feels safe, everything starts to shift. Your energy improves, your mind becomes clear, your body softens, and you begin to feel more like yourself again. Inside this podcast, you'll find simple practices using yin yoga, acupressure, reflexology, breath work, mindfulness. These are all designed to fit into what I call real life, even when you only have a couple of minutes. And if you're looking for more support, you can come and join me inside my Patreon. That's where I share full yin yoga classes, guided practices for emotional support, nervous system resets, and even nourishing recipes to support your overall well-being. It's really a space where you can go deeper at your own pace and in a way that feels supportive, not overwhelming. So whether you're listening while walking, resting, or just taking a moment for yourself, I'm so glad you're here because you've landed in the right place. Take a deep breath, let those shoulders soften, and let's begin. Hello, everybody, and welcome to How to Trust Yourself When You Don't Know What's Happening Next. This episode is everything. Oh my God, I cannot wait to dive into this with you guys. So grab yourself a latte, have a seat, put those earbuds in if you need to, and let's do this. So what if trusting yourself has absolutely, and I mean absolutely nothing to do with knowing that everything is going to work out? Because I think that's where we get self-trust wrong. And I will be the first one to admit that I absolutely, totally got the concept of self-trust wrong. So I used to think that trust was, oh, I know this is going to work out. I know I made the right decision. I know everything's going to be okay. But here's the thing, people, spoiler alert, that's not trust. That's certainty. That's certainty. And certainty is just the bomb ass incredible when we have it. But you're a human being and you've already probably realized that life doesn't give us much certainty. Not at all. And you know what? We've made many decisions without knowing where they're going to go. We've had conversations without knowing how someone's going to respond to us, right? We've put something out there into the world without knowing how it was going to be received, like what people were going to think. We've made changes about certain things without knowing exactly what life would look like on the other side of that. And honestly, sometimes we do everything we can possibly do. And then guess what? We have to wait. The waiting game. I call it the void. Many of my mentors have referred to it as the void. And that is where self-trust starts to get really interesting. Because here's the thing, if you already don't know this, self-trust isn't knowing what happens next. You're not walking around with a crystal ball in front of you and you know exactly what's going to happen. Self-trust is about knowing that you can rely on yourself when you get there. So today I want to talk about the difference between safety, certainty, and trust, because I think we confuse these three things all the time. And I will tell you, I have for years. And I especially want to talk about that uncomfortable space, right? The void between taking action and then seeing the result. You can think of it this way too. You put some seeds into the soil and you water it, and then you wake up the next morning. Are you expecting the plant to have produced something above the soil? No. There's a void, right? There's things brewing underneath the surface that you don't see. That's the uncomfortable space between taking an action and seeing the result. And we're not good at that. So also, maybe the thing that we need in that void, that space, isn't something else to do. Maybe it's trust. Isn't that a concept? Trust. You know, when you plant a plant, you put the seeds in the dirt, you water it, and you trust something's going to start happening. Why can't we do the same thing with our life? We can't, but we can try. And that's what this episode is all about. So, as I mentioned before, safety, certainty, and trust, they're not the same thing. And I've been thinking a lot about that concept lately because this whole month's theme inside my brand, SolefulYin, is about becoming your own safe place. Because there's no other safer place than in you. Isn't that a concept? I used to think, and we'll talk about this, about what safety really was. But it's not. We're going to go into what safety really is, what it actually means. So for a long time, I associated safety, and like many other people, with circumstances. If everything was okay, I was safe. If I knew what was happening, I was safe. If I could anticipate what was coming, I was safe. If nothing unexpected happened, I was safe. If I had all the money that I wanted, I was safe. If I had the hot guy in my life, I was safe. Yada, yada, yada. But none of that is safety. That's actually certainty. And when you start living from certainty, life is not a whole lot of fun. Because when you make certainty a requirement for your safety, you're going to spend an awful lot of your life feeling unsafe because life is inherently uncertain. Isn't that wild? I'm going to say that again. When you make certainty a requirement for safety, and when I talk about safety, I'm not talking about literal safety, right? I'm not talking about the I'm standing in front of a bear and unsafe. We're not talking about that, okay? We're talking about just general overall, our own safety. But when you try to make certainty a requirement for your safety, you're going to spend a lot of your life feeling unsafe because life is inherently uncertain. And I will tell you, when I realized that, it was it wasn't even one light bulb over my head. It was thousands. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, would I go out into the forest and go camping and only bring my tent with me? No, of course not. I'd probably bring a compass, definitely flashlight, food, water, maybe some kind of tool for literal safety in case, something was attacking me. But I'd bring tools. And you see, that's the whole thing about safety. Safety is building tools that you can use to navigate when life is hitting you with those uncertain moments. When things happen, when plans change, people change, your body changes, your finances changes, your relationships changes, your business changes. Life throws out something to you that you were like, WTF? I did not see that coming, nor did I ask for that. So safety can't possibly require knowing what's going to happen. Like, again, we're not walking around with a crystal ball in our hand. So in all of this, I came to understand safety very differently. And I kind of touched on it before. I said that safety is knowing that I have tools, resources, capacity, and support available to me to navigate whatever is happening. Okay? So that's a clear definition of truly what safety is. And then there's trust. And this is where, again, people get trust and safety mixed up. Trust is knowing that I can rely on myself to recognize what I need and respond when I need it. Like, I don't have to know today what I'm going to need 3 weeks from now. Like, I don't have to prepare every single possible theoretical problem. We can try, and we certainly do that. That's spiraling down the rabbit hole, right? I don't have to mentally rehearse like 50,000 possible incomes or outcomes just so that I can convince myself that I'll be okay. Oh my Lord, could you imagine? Like, I can trust that if something changes, I'll notice it. And if something needs my attention, I'll respond to it. And if I need information, I'll find it. If I need help, I'll ask for it. And you know what? If something isn't working out, I'll pivot, I'll adjust. That is what self-trust is. And notice what's actually missing from all of that. There's no absolute requirement to always get it right. Okay? You're not gonna nail it every single time. And self-trust, it doesn't mean that you're always making the right decision. Because I'm going to tell you that that's another reason why we struggle with trusting ourselves. Like, and I'd be like, well, how can I trust myself when I've made mistakes before? Aren't I going to just make mistakes again? Of course you've made mistakes before. We're human. We all have. Self-trust, it isn't about believing you're suddenly going to develop the ability to predict your future and make the perfect decision every single time. Like, there's nobody on this planet that does that. Everybody makes mistakes and wrong choices. But could you imagine the pressure of, oh, I've got to develop the ability to predict the future and make the perfect decision every single time? Do you know what kind of life you'd be living? A miserable one. Because then every decision becomes, I better get this right. I better get this right. Because if I don't, that means I can't trust myself. How many of you have had that thought pattern in your mind? Put your hand up. I have. But does that mean that you can't trust yourself? Absolutely fucking not. You can make a decision with the information you have today and discover later that you need to change direction. I have. Does that mean you've betrayed yourself? No. It just means that, guess what? New available information came around. That's all it means. You can try something and discover, oh, you know what? That doesn't really work. Okay. So it doesn't work. You pivot. You can say yes to something and realize later, you know what? I really need to say no to that. right? You can say no and you can later change your mind. You can start something and stop. You can leave something and then come back to it later. Trust isn't, I will always choose correctly, because you won't. What trust is whatever I discover, I trust myself to respond to it. And that starts to create a completely different relationship with yourself. Now, I want to pivot a little bit and talk about what I mentioned earlier, the void, okay? That space between you've taken action and now you're waiting for an outcome. And this is something I want to bring to the table here because it's something I'm experiencing deeply this past week, okay? So I created something recently that I'm going to be absolutely honest with you, I am incredibly proud of. In fact, I would say it's in the top 5 things that I've been proud of in my entire life. And I put it out there into the world. So was I afraid? Absolutely. But I took the action. I shared it. I talked about it. I did all the things that I could reasonably do. And then came the space, right? That little void. I put the seeds in the dirt. I watered it. So I did the thing. And I know what the thing is producing. But it was how quickly I noticed my mind wanted to fill that space. Oh, maybe I should go check something. I probably need to change something, right? Maybe it's not enough. I should do more. Maybe something's wrong. Oh, this one's a good one, especially for me because I have a highly analytical, logical mind. Maybe I should look at the numbers again. If I had $1 for every single time I kept checking the numbers, I'd be a billionaire by now. No kidding. Maybe I need to tweak what I put out. And then, guess what? I caught myself. I noticed. And I was like, because there wasn't actually any new information requiring a response, nothing had happened that told me something was wrong. I was just uncomfortable because I didn't know the outcome yet. And that distinction is enormous. There's a big difference between, you know what, something needs my attention and I don't like not knowing. None of us like not knowing. That's not how we're hardwired. We want to know and we want to know now. And if we can't tell that difference, then uncertainty creates an enormous amount of unnecessary action. Okay, just think about that for a second. If you can't tell the difference between something needs my attention and I don't like not knowing what's going on, then what are you going to do? You're going to start doing shit. Like you're going to poke around, you're going to tweak, you're going to check, you're going to change, you're going to interfere. You're going to try to start solving problems that don't actually even exist and may never exist. Been there, done that so many times. And it's not because our intuition told us to move. It's because waiting is uncomfortable because we don't know the outcome. If you were 100% guaranteed the outcome and you knew it in advance, you'd do whatever you did and have to do, and then you'd just leave it and go, well, I know what's going to happen, so here we go. I'm just going to wait. But the reality is that is not life. Life is uncertain. And I'm not saying that every single time that you do something and you expect a certain outcome, that's not going to happen. Absolutely, it could happen. But anything can happen. And you can't predict anything. So when doing more is actually about trying to create certainty, Think about where that shows up in your own life, not from a place of judgment, okay? Like maybe, you send someone a message, you haven't gotten a response. And then suddenly you're rereading what you wrote to them. And you're like, shit, did that sound weird? Should I send another message? Maybe they didn't get that one. It says delivered, but maybe they didn't really get it. Maybe I need to clarify what I meant. Nothing has actually happened. They simply haven't answered you yet. Or maybe, you know what, you apply for a job. 2 days later, you still haven't heard anything. Then guess what happens? Your mind starts writing a little story about why you didn't get the job. Or, maybe you have an important medical appointment and you're waiting for results. Maybe you made a financial decision and you don't immediately know whether it was the right one, right? Or maybe you've had a difficult conversation with somebody and afterwards you're waiting to see what changes. Or, you know what? This is a big one for a lot of people. Maybe you started taking better care of yourself, of your body, and you're not immediately seeing the results you wanted. Like, I'm going to say that, we're constantly moving through spaces where action and outcome don't appear at the same time. We're constantly moving through spaces, void spaces, where action and outcome don't happen at the same time. And those spaces can start to feel incredibly uncomfortable because your brain is hardwired for closure. It wants an answer. It wants certainty. It wants predictability. So sometimes it offers us an action as a way to make the discomfort go away. But action isn't always what we need. Sometimes the practice, the real work is, can I leave this alone long enough for information to arrive? Can I leave this alone long enough? If you want to come from it from a spiritual side, can I leave it alone long enough to let the universe gather all of the collective components it needs to make whatever outcome you desired happen? And depending on what it is that you want, maybe the universe has a lot of gathering to do. Maybe it doesn't. So then that probably leads to you wondering, well, how do you know whether to act or to wait? This is a big one. This is something that I really had to work on. And this is where self-trust becomes really practical, your biggest tool. Because I'm absolutely not suggesting that we sit around doing nothing and call it trust, right? You're not just going to put something out there, take action, and just go, okay, universe, I did the thing. Now I don't have to do anything else. I trust you. Sometimes something generally needs your attention. Sometimes you have to send another email or make a phone call or ask a question or change your plan or set a boundary or look at numbers or get more info or possibly even take another action. Self-trust isn't passivity. And a lot of us think it is. You just put something out there and the universe takes care of the rest. No, it's learning to recognize which response is actually needed. So when you feel that urge to do something, I want you to step back for a second and try asking yourself, well, what new information am I actually responding to here? Has something actually changed? Right? You're noticing. Has something actually changed? Or have I learned something new? Or is there now a real problem in front of me? Or am I just trying to eliminate the discomfort of not knowing, the uncertainty? And then ask yourself, is there something I genuinely need right now? And maybe the answer is action. Maybe what you need is reassurance. Maybe you need to go take a walk, a few breaths. Maybe have a conversation with somebody that you really trust. Maybe you need food, sleep, move, stillness. Maybe you just need a fucking break from looking at the damn thing. Maybe your nervous system needs support while the outcome unfolds. And then, the big kicker here, if nothing needs my attention right now, can I actually allow that to be enough? Can that be okay? And that can be so damn hard. Because we're so much more comfortable doing trust than actually experiencing trust. And trusting yourself, it's a relationship. Self-trust isn't something you either have or you don't have. It's a relationship that you're building with you. So every time you notice something and respond to it, you're building evidence. This is why I say awareness is your biggest gift you will ever have in this life. Things like, oh, I noticed I was overwhelmed, so I took rest. I noticed something didn't feel right, so I asked a question. I noticed, you know what, I really need some support right now, so I reached out. I noticed, oh, I'm hungry, so I went and fed myself. I noticed I changed my mind, and then I allowed myself to change direction. And then I noticed there was actually nothing else I needed to do. So I let it go and I waited. So all of those moments might look and seem insignificant, but they're not. They're teaching your nervous system something really important. I listen to myself. I respond to myself. I don't abandon myself just because I don't know what's coming next. And that is what makes uncertainty feel different. And it's not because uncertainty disappears. It never does. It's because you're no longer standing inside it alone. You've actually got you. Your safety lies in you. So here is a practice I would love for you to do this week. Something I want you to start experimenting with. I want you to find one place in your life where you're waiting for an outcome. Something you've already taken, some reasonable action on. And notice what happens when you don't immediately know the result. Notice your thoughts, okay? Notice that urge to want to go and check, to change something. I also want you to notice what happens in your body. And then I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Has anything actually changed that requires a response? What do I need right now? Not what might I theoretically or hypothetically need later. And can I trust myself to respond when there's actually something to respond to? And maybe remind yourself of this one last thing. I don't need to know what happens next to trust that I'll know what I need when I get there. And I'll say that again. I don't need to know what happens next to trust that I'll know what I need when I get there. Know what you need when you need it. Let that land, really let that land. Because that's self-trust without requiring certainty. So in closing, I want to wrap it up by saying that becoming your own safe place doesn't mean building a life where nothing unexpected ever happens. It also doesn't mean never feeling afraid or never doubting yourself. And it certainly doesn't mean always knowing exactly what to do. It's knowing that you have tools to support yourself when life gets difficult and you know how to navigate that difficulty, that uncertainty. And trust is knowing that you can rely on yourself to recognize, like, what kind of support do I need? What kind of tool do I need to pull out of my toolkit? Because sometimes that tool will be, I need to act. Maybe it'll be, I need to ask for help. Maybe it'll be, I need to change, pivot direction. Maybe it'll be, I need to rest. And sometimes you'll just need to leave the damn thing alone. You don't need tomorrow's answers today. Like, you don't need to prepare every possible version of what might happen. And you don't need certainty in order to move forward, because you're never going to get certainty. You can take the next step and trust yourself to meet whatever comes after it. And honestly, that's one of the deepest forms of safety we can create for ourselves. It's not, I know everything will go according to plan, because it's not. It's whatever happens, I trust myself to meet myself there because I've got the capacity and the tools to navigate it. So thanks so much for pressing play on today's episode. I'll see you next week. If today's episode supported you in any way, the next best step is to come practice with me. Inside my Patreon, I share simple yin yoga, acupressure, reflexology, and nervous system practices designed for busy women who want to feel calm, grounded, and back in their bodies without needing a ton of time. You'll also find full classes, guided practices, and even nourishing recipes to support your well-being. Until next time, take a deep breath, slow things down, and take care of you. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much for pressing play today.